Hi, everyone. I want to welcome you to the Babecast Podcast. This is episode 1. We have a really good show planned out for you guys. On episode 1, it's going to be all about relationships, particularly breaking up and moving on. I want to introduce my co-host, Truly Intuitive.
Hi.
And also we have Brandi here.
Hello.
And you guys want to introduce yourself? Shout out your socials, your platforms.
Hi, you guys. I'm Truly Intuitive. My handle is Truly_intuitive on Instagram and Truly Intuitive on Twitter. You guys will find me a lot on Twitter, but I am an intuitive reader and spiritual coach. And I love helping you guys work on yourselves and, find yourselves. So, thank you guys so much for being here.
So what we're going to do, I wanted to bring up a topic that a lot of people are talking about right now in terms of like breakups, toxic relationships. It seems like right now, everyone, I don't know if it's the culture or I don't know if it's just how people are in general, but I know the more that I'm on social media, it's starting to seem like almost everyone is involved in some type of toxic relationship that is ending up in that weird cycle where people are breaking up, getting back together, having sneaky links. It's starting to seem like just kind of like, I don't know, what do you guys think? Like, do you think that it's always been that way, or if it's just social media is putting it on Front Street, it's easier to get caught? Like, what do you guys think about that? Because in terms of like even the Kendrick Lamar album that just dropped, that song "We Cry Together," have you guys had a chance to listen to that? Who has had a chance to listen to that?
I haven't had a chance to hear it yet.
When I tell you that was one of the most triggering things that I've ever heard in my life. It's basically so it's a song and an album. Remember back in the day when rappers used to like rap back at each other like a conversation? Like, I think like the Beastie Boys used to do it all the time. And like a lot of rap groups used to do it, like Wu-Tang and shit, where they're like rapping and having like a conversation. Well, there is a song on there where it's like an argument. It's like a big ass like toxic fight. She's calling him a little dick nigga, and he's like, oh, you're you always want to put a nigga down type shit. What do you guys think about like just that shit in general? Like just
that, honestly, I mean, that's relationships a lot. And we learn a lot of those habits being in our homes, living in our growing up. Like we learn a lot of that and hanging out with our friends and being in little relationships ourselves. We don't know how to handle ourselves sometimes, honestly. And as we're going to talk about a little later about Amy and Mozzie, that kind of reminds me of that, how that situation is going on after the relationship. People, after when you're hurt, you kind of lose a little bit of respect, just a little bit, and that can cause you to do and say some stuff that you do not mean, that you do not even want to say. But it's that. So that's my opinion, briefly.
With the Amy and Mozzie shit, I watched a little bit of it, and I just want to tell you. So, if you guys don't know, Amy and Mozzie, I'm guessing, and interrupt me if I'm wrong, because when you brought this to my attention today, I guess, are any of you guys familiar with this YouTube couple? They're like an influencer couple.
Not me.
By the way, they're people of color. They're Black, and apparently they're like, you ever see those YouTube couples where they have like a lot of videos together? Were you a fan of them? Truly, were you a fan of them?
I definitely was a fan of them. I have not been following them for a long while, just because I've been focusing more on myself. Like, so I, stuff that isn't, good for my mental health. I don't really focus on it. But my mom was telling me, she was like, they broke up, da da da. And I was like, dang, I really like them. But they just are really cute together. They are always, having fun together, being themselves. And that's what I love as a couple, especially within people of color. So right now, it just seems like, well, they were a YouTube couple. They made their YouTube together back in 2018, and they started a business together. And they started to grow from that, and now they're purchasing homes, purchasing cars. They got engaged. They were engaged, so they were engaged to each other at the time. And it's just afterward, it just seemed like he was like, she wasn't there for me the way I wanted her to be. Like she didn't I was there for her when we didn't have any money, when we were down at our lowest. And I gave her ideas and stuff for the business. And this is how she's up. But now that I'm trying to make my money, I'm trying to figure out what my idea is. She's not here for me. And so that was the thing. And her whole thing is that, I made this money. Like, I did this, and you need to come on.
So was that the reason why they broke up? Was it like money thing? It was a money.
So that's what she didn't want to say too much at all, because I guess this was never supposed to go to the public in general. But after it coming out, because of he is basically saying yes, that it was like, oh, this is mine. Like, we didn't do this together. Like, because she's probably the breadwinner. He's like, okay, you're focused on this. This is yours. And we did this together. Like, he gave her the vendor. She started selling hair. He gave her the vendor to sell hair. Like, he's the reason kind of that she became popular. And now that she got all her money, all her stuff together, he's like, well, why don't you ride for me the same way I rode for you and help me out? And she's kind of like trying to separate. This is what he's saying, trying to separate the business. Like, okay, you work on your shit, I'm gonna work on mine, and we're gonna, type. That's what it means.
You know what I think is a big issue with that? That's part of I feel like they were playing house for a little too long. When there is no reason to me why you should have house, several cars, businesses, and you're not married yet. And now when it's time to break up and dissolve the relationship, now one person loses because you never became that unit, in marriage. And I feel like sometimes in marriage, how I was raised, my mother was like, you never get married for any other reason but love. And now shit is starting to play out where it's like, you start to see a lot of situations where, especially nowadays when a woman is taught to be submissive and all of this in her marriage, when they divorce, she spent her whole life, dedicating, supporting, and not really going back to school, not really hanging out with friends. And now when it's all said and done, it's just like, So I don't know how I feel about the woman in that situation having all the shit. Because
I felt the exact same way, because I feel like, again, my twin flame, he's the reason that I do tarot. He's the reason I quit my job and started to do what I do. I said, I want to quit my job. I want to do this. He said, do it. And I promise you, I probably wouldn't have done it if he had not have said that, or not as quickly. And my thing is, I owe that to him. I do this by myself. This is what he isn't here helping me do anything day to day. But just the push to even be here, he did help with that. And I can't lie. So it's like, if we were to be together or whatever, I feel like I would definitely it just wouldn't. It would be amicable. It would be so much different, because I do feel like I'm here because of him.
And you know what, to kind of put my little input on that, you're lucky that you had that kind of support from your man, because not a lot of people do. See, my mistake that I'm learning now that I am 41 years old, I was with who I thought was the love of my life since 1996. We just got divorced this April. Okay. So, right now, like in retrospect, when I look at the way that my life went, I feel like, I was born in 1980, I'm 41, and the way that we were raised, we were very traditional Latinos, like, the woman is submissive to the husband. The man is, the head of the household. You have to, just like not obey in a sense where like humiliating, but like you obey the head of the household, and then you're there as that the support, to help and stuff like that. And we were always a 2-income family, so it's not like, even though I at the time I was not an American citizen, I've only been an American citizen for like the last 3 years. Still, like I feel like the way that my life led up to like the divorce, the separation, and everything like that, there were red flags there.
If you don't mind me asking,
red flags there.
If you don't mind me asking, why did he not help you get your citizenship earlier?
Well, actually, okay, so he did.
Okay.
I have waited for it's a long process. So I started my citizenship process back in 2009. I just barely got it. So
Wow.
it's a bunch of paperwork, and it's not as easy as people think it is. Like, oh, you meet an American citizen and then now you're married. No, at the time that we applied for it, you had to be married for at least 10 years
Wow.
before you could become an American citizen.
Wow.
So I always, like, whenever him and I, we were stationed in Germany and stuff like that, twice. I always, since I couldn't have my own social, I worked under the German government. So instead of working for the American government, I worked under the Germans and stuff like that. But he did help me in that sense. But at the same time, I just feel like if I could go back and know the things that would have like happened now, I probably would have waited. I probably would have waited, and I probably would have finished my schooling, because I did leave law school for him.
Oh my goodness.
Aw.
So you
I
literally,
did.
like, out of your duties as a wife,
Yeah, because I
put
wanted
his
to,
career first.
I wanted to support him in his military career. And, he wasn't shit as a husband, I'll tell you that. But as a military, he's a good soldier.
Yeah.
He really is. He's a good soldier. And so in his professional career, outstanding man. In his personal, he's lacking. He's lacking in a lot of things that, and maybe he felt like I was lacking in a lot of things as well, as a wife. We never got to talk about that. It was just, I have somebody else and that's it.
If you could ask him, like, because of course you went through the breakup of breakups, like, when people go through divorce, I consider that as, like, you always hear that divorce is the hardest thing that everyone goes through, because it's not just like, I've been through hard breakups where I was just like mentally gone, like not myself for months, but I can't imagine what is, like, I know that pain feels the same, but it can't possibly when you're married, because there's definitely a covenant that you have with that person where no one gets married trying to get divorced, like, that's not the idea. It's like, this is it. And so when you get to that point when, oh shit, forever came a lot sooner than niggas prepared for, like,
Yeah.
What is that like? What is that like?
So for me, it did feel a little bit like the end of the world, because we were friends before we were anything. Like I said, we had been rocking since we were 16, 17, since 1996. And we didn't get married until 2001, because we wanted to make sure that we knew everything about each other, that we knew that this was going to be it. My father, very, old school, traditional. And so he was like, I'm only going to walk my daughter down the aisle one time. So if you're not going to honor her, and if this is not going to be a forever thing, then you guys should just maybe wait and, just see how things go and stuff like that. But, we're young, and, you think you're like,
is your dad still with us?
My dad's still with us.
How does he feel about it now?
Very disappointed. He's very, very disappointed. He never saw it coming, because, and we'll get to that. He never saw it coming for the fact that he was a good husband until he wasn't. Otherwise we would not have lasted for all these years. I mean, we're talking 1996 to 2022. If he was just shitty his whole life, I would have never stayed. I would have never stayed for that long. And if I was a bad wife to him, he would have never stayed that long. That
makes a lot of sense. That does, because when it comes to breakups, when you're angry in the breakup, because the thing about a breakup is that it's not just how we as people think about time. We think about things almost like a movie, you know, it has a beginning, middle, and end. But how reality happens, life is always one moment moving into the next. And just because you tell that person, fuck you, don't call me, does not mean that that's the breakup and that's done with it. A breakup is a process. It's life during that, those feelings when you say, bye, I'm fucking done. You're still, that person is all you fucking think about, if not even more than when you were with them. Because when you're in a breakup, you are literally crazy, because literally everything that you thought was your life is now not.
Literally.
And the thing about life is life goes on. The first of the month, still your rent is still due. The car note still needs to get paid. Your kids is still. There was one time I went through a fucking breakup. I was crying on my couch and my son came out the room and said, "Can I have a snack?" Like, life moves.
Life has to go on. There is no, life doesn't pause to say, oh, you know, Lita or, you know, Cartel, so and so is falling apart. We have to pause life and just give her a minute to reel herself back in, or just get back into the swing. There is no time. You have to keep going on, because at the end of the day, you still have bills, you still have a mortgage, you still have a car payment, you still have to, you know, go on about you still have a job that you have to show up and, you know, be there, be present for that. And so I think that breakups, they're the hardest thing that a person will ever have to go through. But at the same time, like, just know that you will get through it, because there was months where I didn't know if I was coming or going. Like, it was literally like, what am I gonna do? Not only do I have to mourn the loss of my husband, and not even about death, I have to mourn the loss of my husband, but my friend.
Well, you know, there's
feels like a death.
Like, mourn
it
my
feels
friend.
like death.
Well, there's science. There's science that shows that your brain processes it as grief.
The same way.
Yeah, it's the same way. Yeah.
I literally created a poll just for this, and I was like, how do you guys deal with breakups, like, or just like, you know, disconnecting from people that you love, family members, everything? And they were like, it's like you're mourning, like literally mourning death. And I'm like, it really is.
Yeah.
It really
is
the
like same grief. It's the same grief process. You have to go through acceptance, you have to go through the anger, you have to go through the bargaining. Because with my divorce, I was happy because I was the one who chose to end it. So I was liberated. I felt free. I went on my spiritual awakening. It's the reason that I'm into tarot. But I think a year after, that is really when I was able to grieve. I had to get all the logistics out the way first, the kids, the schedule, all that stuff. Once that was done, then I got to really go through my grieving process. And it hits you on the holidays, it hits you on the birthdays, it hits you on the anniversary, or when I see one of his family members, or I hear a song or a movie we used to watch together. And so the grief comes and goes, because I have days where I'm like, that was the best thing I could have did, was walked away. And then I have days where I'm like, ooh, like, dang, we did have good times. There were good times. Like she said, otherwise I wouldn't have stayed as long as I did. But it definitely is like a death, because you have to undo a whole identity. I was a wife. Now I'm introducing myself as a single mother of 4. So even having to switch my words up, like, wait, I don't get to say wife anymore, or I don't put Mrs., I put Miss, you know, and then even thinking about whether I was going to change my last name or not, and what, you know, my kids, like, it is a lot. I think that it's worse now because we have social media and people are so out there and open, whereas back in the day, you could keep stuff within your circle, or, you know, it wasn't social, you know, because he announced the divorce on
shit in your head.
Yeah,
or with their people. And now everything is just out there. You know, when he got a new girl and posted her, now everybody know my business when I wasn't ready to talk about it. And so I had to take my power back and start my business and my blog and my podcast. Like, oh no, I'm gonna get my side out here, you know. But again,
and that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. So I was pushed to my limit. I was finally pushed to my limit. I didn't understand it then until now, but he was so very controlling on the fact that I was never really close to my in-laws like I should have been, only to his sister, because, you know, she was very much there for me, in a sense where, like, I can't believe that this is happening. I'm here for you. You know, like I support you, you know, just whatever decision you want to take. I'm here for you. I'm here for you. But I didn't realize just how fake the shit was until I saw how fake the shit was. So by saying that,
you found that out during the breakup.
I found out once we were already separated. So like he abandoned the home in 2019 because he was carrying on just affair after affair after affair.
Learning that after learning like new information after, because I know Brandi started talking about stages of grief, and I want you to I want you to go through the stages of grief, because the stages of grief is the same thing as the stages of a breakup. And with someone introducing
Absolutely.
like new information, does that help you? And my question now is, say if the breakup happens and one of the stages is acceptance, there's a point in time where you're going to have to accept that I fucked up, this person is a piece of shit. Does learning new information after, like, wow, that bitch was there the whole time, oh wow, this is this, does that?
Absolutely.
You have to start over.
You have to start all over. My stage
with
of
the
grief,
new information. Yeah.
My stage of grief was complete self-destruction. So by my stage of grief, the way that I dealt with my grief was I had quit smoking. I was on a new path. I was going to the gym. Everything was great. And then the minute that I learned what I learned, I had quit smoking cigarettes for 3 years. And that same day I started, and now I can't be stopped. And then came the liquor. I was going to work hungover, just not really wanting to be at work. It affected my professional life. There was a time where I would go into the bathroom and take shots just to make it through the day, because I was so distraught as to how could someone that I thought that I knew for 20 plus years be someone that I never knew at all.
There is the lowest, the lowest of the low that I've ever been. No bullshit. There was a point in time where the shit happened, and I was like, you know what? Because you know, this is the one thing that your girlfriends always tell women to do. We're gonna go out, bitch. Fuck that nigga. You're gonna be fine. You're a badass bitch. What? Why are you crying? Look at that new bitch. She ain't nothing on you. Like, you know. So I'm dressed up, whatever. I go out, and I was fine. I was fine, right? So fine that like a nigga like was like, oh, let's go into this place and we'll get like a table like with me and all my friends. The table was like $600. He was like, oh, that's short shit. Mind you, I could have had a very good time. Like, you know, we're sitting in the best parts of the club and everything, actually having a good time. And then when this guy kind of started like flirting with me, I instantly started feeling sad and missing the other person. And I remember going into the bathroom and fucking breaking down in a bathroom.
I have been there. You are there physically, but you're not there mentally, and you're not there emotionally. You're not there to have a good time. You're there to just kind of like, okay, let me just suspend my thoughts for a minute. Let me go out. Let me have a drink. But when you go out and you have a drink heartbroken, it's just not even a drink that you just want to go and enjoy yourself. Oh, let's toast to the good life. Because at that point, you're not living through a good life. You are like in a different type of depression, not in a depression where you need medication for, but you're living your own hell. And that's you're living your own type of depression
before when you said like life moves on, like I understand that, like honestly, you can go through a breakup in the next week or whatever. This person can have somebody totally different. The thing about it is, that's what I was going to say, at that point, that has nothing to do with you. You have to live your own life. And because you are going through mourning, you don't need to put yourself back out there and be rushing like everybody else is rushing.
Nope. Because then you just pick up the same person in a different body.
You will fuck yourself up trying to rush like them. You're not in their lane. You're not doing what they're doing. And obviously you don't want to think how they think it, so you don't need to move like they move. You are in mourning very literally. You are literally feeling like you're going through a death. So you need to be replenishing yourself, loving on yourself, nourishing yourself, learning about yourself. So a lot of times,
if not, then you're out here in the world, you're outside, but at the same time, you're just like, man, like, how can I be like you to not give a fuck? How
That's
can I learn not to give a fuck when your whole heart still cares? You know, you didn't expect that, you know, you didn't expect that.
It's not that
But
they
you
don't.
have to allow yourself to feel.
They do
Try
give
to
a
get
fuck. It's
over
just that
it.
they don't know how to show it.
In that.
They don't know how to show that they don't give a fuck. And that's how having sex. You don't realize that men and women are so different. Men can separate the sex and stuff like that. We a lot of time I can, but a lot of time women as a whole, we cannot separate the feelings from the sex, and men know that, and they can. So having sex with somebody else, that doesn't really matter. It don't feel no different, but it does to us. So in that regard, it's just like, it's not saying that they don't care. It's just about realizing that you show you that you don't care differently. So that's why you have to focus on you. It's not trying, again, I'm not trying to be like them, not trying to stop trying to get in their heads. Stop trying to get in the man's head and stay in your own head. Stay in your own lane.
Got a question.
Because then we start playing a game where we going back and forth to see who moves on and who happy first and all this stuff, and not even dealing with our feelings. We both just playing get back, and we're both just damaging other people and damaging ourselves.
Colorado, what do you have to, what's your question?
Leader. Do you feel like maybe if, let's say, you ended up, your career got put first instead of his, so you actually got to finish law school and your career got put first, do you feel like things would have ultimately changed or be different at this point?
That's a good question.
Because my problem is a lot of women, like, I think it was Truly Intuitive. You said your bro told you to go ahead and do what you got to do. Go ahead and gave you that push to go ahead and do your podcast. A lot of women don't actually ever get that push. Like,
Exactly.
Lita literally described how she was in law school. Like, in my opinion, like, if she would actually finish law school and got a job in law versus a military career, they would have had a
Exactly.
I think,
the
reasoning behind that is it comes down to gender roles. We as Black and brown people for so long are taught that women, even down to the church, even down to Christianity, we are made to support. We are made to support down to like, we'll support a man with like, damn, the man has this, and this, but you put the car in my name. You know, we'll support in those little ways. Or even when we don't have that financial support, like, you know, we will also be the person that, hey, maybe you shouldn't hang out with that nigga this weekend. Maybe you should just, you know, be at home. Maybe you should do other shit. I think though, sometimes it's hard for men that when they're a lot of times when men are in the position where they feel like I am ready to marry, this is from what I gathered from talking to men, you know, and my dad and things like that. They are in a point in their life where they are the captain of their own ship. They're like, I got money in the bank. When they're ready to marry, they are ready to lead. So when it comes down to you being in marriage, and then a year later, shorty talking about I want to start leading my own life. What? Who gonna cook? I'm a cook. Who gonna pick shorty up from school? And then that's kind of where it comes from. Like, you know, they won't straight up tell you no, but all of a sudden we're moving to this place. I'm thinking about taking this job, or maybe you can. And then, you know, I start to see a lot of people, a lot of women that stay at home and build up the home. It never really happens. And then like, there's also kind of that feeling where like, if I'm a married woman and I don't go along with it, am I betraying it? Am I being disobedient? I'm being a disobedient wife. Well, now, will this start some shit? You know, will this start an argument or some weird fucking tension? You know, like as a man, what do you feel about that?
To Chicago.
You said what?
Well, oh, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead, bro. I ain't even hear the question.
Yeah, as a man, how do you feel about that? Like, if you were put in a position where you're married, you're leading, and then she kind of wants to lead for a little bit or just change your plan, like how would that feel? Like, or how would you handle that?
I mean,
me. Like, oh yeah, go ahead, boss.
Well, I was gonna say, like me, I want to say that I'm in tune with my emotional intelligence. So because of that, I'll communicate that. You feel me? I'm not one of them. I'm not gonna just go along with it if I know like it'll fuck up what I got going on. And I feel like if she my woman and we got that connection, she should understand that. Like, that's a sense of selfishness. You feel me? Because if I'm making a leading decision, I'm also thinking about it from her point of view before I just try to lead. You feel me?
So in a way, it's like building, you got to be able to understand before you come into marriage, all of your goals and plans, are you building for you or are you building for us?
Yeah.
Like, how do you figure that out? How do you figure that out when you're dating? Like, how?
Man, as a man, see, I know it's different for everybody, and bruh may agree. We live in a day and age where it's like, how can I say this? Because all women are not like this. Sometimes it's hard to determine who really for you because people got motives. You feel me? Some people want to build with you.
I agree 100% with that. People have motives. Now, sorry to interrupt, but at the same time, I kind of want to like emphasize that fact is that people do have motives, because for me, I was sold a dream. I didn't know how controlling and calculating this man was until I saw it now. You know, I didn't know then, because for me, it was, we both came from nothing.
So is that a thing
we
that
came from nothing? And the thing is that he said, okay, I'm going to join the military. You know, I'm going to make a good life for us, and we're going to work, we're going to hustle, we're going to do everything that we need to do in order for us to live our own happily ever after. He goes, don't worry. He goes, I will give you the GI Bill. You will continue your law school. You will continue. You will succeed. You will be a lawyer. And we're going to be good. Like, we're going to be good. But when it came down to it, it was, no, you're not going to get the GI Bill. No, you're not going to get this. No, you're not going to get that. I'm not doing any of that, because he had a child with someone else.
You know, like, I feel like there are ways though, like, because I'm trying to figure out, like, we're all here now and we got to move forward. And the thing with like the podcast too is even like trying to have a guidebook. So there's someone out there listening right now that is is finally thinking that they met the one. And how do they find a motive? Like, for instance, I was over a guy's house last night and he has a podcast. And I told him, I just came up out of nowhere and I said, it was a test. It was a loaded question because I test niggas. And I was like, I have to tell you something. And I made sure that I psychologically put him in that, oh shit. You know, what does she have to tell me? This bitch better not be pregnant, right? That's like what he's thinking. And I'm like, I'm going to start a podcast. And this nigga goes, oh, you want me to help you with it? And I was like, God damn it, that's the nigga for me. Like, instead of being like, you know, oh, well, are you gonna have time for that? Or like, you know, kind of, oh, you trying to copy my shit? He completely, I said, I want to do this, and how can I help? I think for someone listening to kind of look through motives, maybe in the dating process, or even before you say I do, like, what are some of we gotta come up with something like,
exactly.
Yeah, where we can like figure it out if that's the person, like catching those red flags. Alana, you're in like a very happy marriage right now. How are you? Like, congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What did you do? What's Sierra's prayer? Like, what?
So will be, our anniversary, like initial, is this July. It'll be 11 years, but we didn't get married till last November. So we've been together a while. And I was 17 when I met him. So like, I went through like that thing, like, you're not gonna tell me what to do. Like, I'm going to college, like, I'm gonna do this, I want to do that. And then just from previous relationships, like high school, of course, you know, it's like, you don't really date, you just like, okay, you do whatever. But I feel like I knew he was, I always say like, okay, when I first met him, like I knew that was my husband. But I think like our first year of dating, I was a freshman in college. He had just graduated college. That was like a whole year, that was a test year. And that's when I feel like, okay, he has to be the one, because, you know, I wasn't like wilding out, but of course, you know, my friends are single. There's parties every day, every night where I went, we were allowed to have parties. So we was partying like Monday through Sunday. But then, you know, instead of like being upset, like, okay, like we've done this and that, it's like actually talking to me, like, oh, like, I know, this is new to us, blah, blah, blah. Like actually taking the time to be like,
he wasn't trying to change you. He wasn't trying to be like, you need to be the woman.
Right. It was just kind of like understanding, like, I know what you're used to, but that's not me. Like, this is different. Like, this is real. So it's like, oh, like, okay. And then from there, because I do notice like a change in language too, because of course you do talk about like us, but it doesn't come like right away. So when our language flipped to like, oh, we're gonna do this in a few years and that, then it's like, oh, okay, without even just, really thinking about it. And of course we had the marriage like conversation, but it wasn't always like, we're getting married to this. He basically, one day I had, the girl thing, like, I don't feel like you want to marry me. I feel like you don't want to do this. We've been together. And I had to understand too, my mom was like, a man, when he is ready, like you said, when he's ready, he's ready and he's going to take lead. He told me, he was like, I'm going to ask you one day, and you're going to say yes, and we're going to get married. And that's literally what happened. So after that conversation, I was like, you know what? I'm going to be patient. I never want to be that girl that was like, oh my God, when is my boyfriend going to marry me? All the people, those girls that post like subliminals on Facebook and stuff, like I thought that was so cringy. And I'm like, I don't ever want to like force him, like, okay, you're talking about us now. We're going to talk about marriage. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about that. I just kind of, I heard his language change. I saw his moves different. It was like, we're doing this. We're going to do that. His plans were always like, you're coming with me to do this, we're going to do that. So I'm like, okay, I'm here for it.
So for the guys that are on the call right now, when you see women posting the cringy subliminals, like she brought up, me and somebody's son,
the
that
pick
shit.
Me.
One day,
I call them the pick me.
How do men, because we've all as women have done it, like we send those subliminals, how do y'all respond? Like, what is going through a man's mind when you look at the story and you're like, this raggedy bitch is talking?
And I feel like specifically if you already in a relationship, because that's what I see, it's like your girlfriend on there posting hints to us and it's making y'all look bad, like, oh, he don't do that, like he's not doing that. I would be upset.
Guys, what do y'all think about the posts? Do y'all see it as desperate? Do y'all see it as like, damn, let me give her a call? Because there are sometimes like when I do that shit and a nigga will call me and be like, take the shit down. Like, what? How do y'all feel about it as men? Because that's the real thing.
All right, personally, I think everything varies. All of this, how long you've been together play a role in how y'all relationship, all that plays a role in this. But I'm gonna be 100% real. If you've been with a man a substantial amount of time and you starting to feel like that, then that nigga don't really like you. Like, he don't like you like that. He might just be comfortable with you being in his life and you convenient, but he don't like you like that. He's right. If you feel like, I don't know, because like the young lady that just said she was married and she starts seeing his moves different and stuff like that.
Talking about weed and whatnot.
Yeah, you feel me? Like I've been in that situation to where I didn't want to talk to no other bitches. I might be in a room full of a whole bunch of hoes and shit, and I want to go home to my girl. I'm trying to leave. You feel me? Like it's a different type of feeling. So if a nigga feeling like he ain't fucking with you like that, it's either you not moving right and you just realize you're not moving right and he iffy about you, or he just don't like you. Like you think he likes you.
Yeah, that's true. I wholeheartedly
because he might not
agree
think
with
you
that,
ready though.
because
Sometimes you might like a woman, but you don't like the way she moving, but you still in the situation and she like, oh, I want to be married, and the man could be hesitant because you not moving the right way, but you don't even realize that.
But will he
that's
tell her?
true,
Because I think my man should tell me if that's the place that he's at. Communicate.
But sometimes they don't tell you.
How do I
Sometimes they
know?
don't tell you because they don't want to lose you. They
the
like what they
too
have
good.
with you. Like they like what they have with you, but they don't want to move past just that casual. Not even casual, maybe that's the wrong word. Not casual, but I'm just gonna say that for right now. Just that casual. Okay, I have her, but I also am going to have extras.
Getting their cake and eat it too.
Rather keep it how it is than argue with you about.
I think that's too, like, some people don't know. I feel like my communication was horrible until like he like helped me, because there'd be things that would frustrate me, and I wouldn't say it, but of course my actions is like, okay, obviously something is wrong.
Yeah.
But the only reason I knew, because we were having these conversations. He told me before, he was like, if I didn't want to be with you, I would leave.
Well, how did you meet? Because I think that's also plays a role in how you meet, because one thing with our culture though as well, we don't meet with our intentions. 90% of the way that people are meeting now are over internet now, right? So if I meet someone off of Tinder, it's already setting up that like, we'll see where it goes. So you can't really be mad as a woman. You've been fucking this dude for 2 years and now you caught feelings. And because it was not like y'all met in a situation where, hey, let me take you out on a date. You know, a lot of our generation is meeting up on these funny ass apps, sliding in DMs where sex is like the underlying thing. Like a lot of people that are, from what I see, are in relationships now. It started off on some fuck buddy shit and it turned into something else. So now that this is where our generation is, my thing is, how do we help someone how do we fix this? You know,
I mean,
we're doing it backwards.
I don't think it should be fixed.
Well,
I personally don't think it should be fixed.
Why do you
I know someone who met her husband on Tinder. They've been married. They got married before me and my husband got married, and she met him on Tinder. But
I turned a hoe into a housewife.
But that was her intention. Was their intention to meet, to date?
Well, that's what I don't know. Like I know people that get on dating apps. Personally, I met my husband through Facebook. I always tell people
Facebook is different. If I'm on Tinder and someone says I'm only here, I'm not here for hookups, I'd be like, bitch, get out of here. Get out of here. That's not the platform.
I wonder, because I've met like a few people that they find people on Tinder or whatever. But this girl I went to school with, she met him, and I don't know like the specifics, but they've been married for like 5 or 6 years. But also, if that's how you wanted to start your relationship and it works, I mean,
I feel like you should go and Christian mingle then. Like you should get
Christian would be the worst. So
Christian mingle, then be the worst one.
My thing is
just because some people base it off sex right away and it works for them. I mean, I can understand it. And then some people don't, and it works. So I don't think you can fix it. I just think what I see, because Twitter is just full of all this, like all day, every day. I think those people need to meet those people. If you just want to have sex and based off that, you meet that person. Don't get mad because somebody don't, and you thought like you was gonna go somewhere. And if you don't want sex, maybe don't try to find somebody on Tinder. Go to the farmersonly.com or whatever, like do something different.
So Colorado,
Colorado,
this is where you gotta pay. I have a question for
to
Colorado.
To that, so okay. I think that I'm the oldest one here. Like I said, I met him in 1996. You know, I'm 41, going on 42. And at that time, dating was still dating, where, hey, you know, let me take you out on a date. We're going to go to the movies, dinner, you know, stuff like that. It was before social media. It was before all of these dating sites and things like that. And so for me to have been single now, because we got separated in 2019, and I did try to date, but the dating scene is so much different now than what it used to be. Now. Like now, everything is so rushed to, okay, so yeah, we're going on a date. Okay, we gonna smash tonight. But I don't operate like that, because after having been with only just one man for a 20-year span, I don't know. I didn't know how to act. I was very turned off on the fact that, like, why are you trying so hard to just get me in the bed?
Well, because there's so many like you can tell, like when I'm on a date with someone, I can tell how a man carries himself if he's used to what he's used to, right? Like how a man talks to me. Like if a man asks me certain questions, like I never answer, what are you looking for in a man? When a man asks you that question on a date, because my mindset goes to why, so you can pretend to be that nigga for the next 3 months. I never tell him that. But how, if a man does certain things a certain way, I can tell how a man talks to me if he's used to bitches fucking on the first date. Like how niggas, like, you know, you get in a car after they bought you a bunch of shit and they're trying to come to your house. Like it's certain shit because they're used to it with the culture. Like it's certain women right now that are trying to do things traditionally, but there's a lot of men that are using Tinder for finding a wife and also finding the next bitch. And now they're on the first date trying to determine which category I'm gonna put this bitch in. You know, can you guys agree? Like, how do y'all feel about it? Colorado, how do you feel about that? About Tinder and dating apps and
I don't use none of that shit. You already know that.
why?
Exactly everything you just said. Both my parents have been married for what? I'm 30 years old, 31 years now, 32 years now. You know them. My mom pretty much the breadwinner in the situation. That's why I asked that question earlier. Like, my dad followed her on her career path and whatnot. So me personally, when I want to actually be in a relationship with somebody, like, I learned throughout the years that, like, maybe it's a good idea if y'all actually become friends and get to know each other first, like actual friends, like actually see who she likes to date. You know what I'm saying? See who he likes to date, check out their tendencies and whatnot. Like, and like you said, nowadays, everybody on social media, everything on social media is a fucking lie. Your profile picture is a lie. There's always a filter on that motherfucker. Like, and then,
A lie. All these people lives is a lie. Why is you watching these people lives?
and then like you lie while you're also exposing your whole truth to everybody. So like you want to get married, but if I check your story and from Thursday to Sunday, your ass at the alley down at Newport News, or you got down, you know what I'm saying? You going to Miami every weekend and you thotting around.
Why
like,
do niggas hate Miami? That is like a new thing. Like, niggas figured out Miami. Bitches, we can't go to Miami no more.
Hey,
They
I'm
know.
going to Miami on the 4th, you
know.
heard me? I'm out there. I'm ready for
Niggas
y'all.
is going to
hot girl
Miami for
summer.
the same thing.
Y'all bugging.
No Miami trips this summer, y'all. We gotta find a new place. Where's the new place? Where's that place in Mexico that all the hood niggas start to go? Tulum. We going to
Cancun.
Tulum.
But nah, for real.
Everybody
Okay,
wanna
for
go
y'all
to
women,
Tulum.
how do y'all feel when majority of women are promoting this hot girl fucking nigga summer type shit? What do you think
I don't
us
agree with
men
that
are about to
shit.
do?
What?
What do you think us
What?
men are
And the
about to
red
do?
lights
Do not
working on them
agree with that.
headlights?
So I've been in. I love most
Why
of my
y'all
friends.
focus on those types of women anyway? My thing is, again, that'd be the question to me. Like the women, we focus on the men that are like, oh fuck bitches and and we get so upset with them. Why the fuck are you even looking at them? Because you don't have nothing in common with them. The same thing with men. These are women that you don't even like, that you don't want to be with. Why do you care what they're saying? Why do you give a fuck? You need to be looking
But see,
at
this the thing though. You can't. And me personally, I don't feel like you can judge it off that, because I feel like everybody has more than one personality. You feel me?
Right,
You're
that's
right,
true.
right.
Yes. I had a hot girl
I got
summer
7.
before we got married, but we've been together. But I guess mine was a little.
Don't play with me.
down.
You know exactly what you're saying. Don't play with me.
Like, but what I'm is like what y'all said with the Tinder shit and all of that, right? And you be like, it might be men who just be trying to fuck and all of that. All right, I'm gonna keep it 1,000. Like, any girl I meet, I'm trying to fuck. You feel me? Like, that's just what it is. But let me break it down. That don't mean that that's all. That don't mean that's all.
No, I
That
appreciate the
don't
honesty.
mean.
No, honestly.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Though. That don't mean that's the only thing I'm trying to do though. But I do want to do that though. You feel me? I do want to fuck, but that don't mean that's the only. That don't mean that's the only thing I want. Now, if we do have sex or whatever, it can grow off of that, or it cannot grow off of that. But me personally, like, I'm a grown man. Like, if I meet you at 7-Eleven right now and we have sex after we leave 7-Eleven, I'm not going to judge you all that. If we vibing and end up married for 20 years, that's just what it is. You feel me? Like, I'm not about to be like, oh nah, I'm not wifing this bitch because she let me hit when we left the 7-Eleven. Because me and my lifestyle, man, I done been all over the United States. You got girls who will make a nigga wait 2 weeks, and whole time she's way more of a hoe than the 7-Eleven bitch was.
Hey, that's a fact. That's a fact.
Yeah, that's not an indicator.
You make me wait 6 months the whole time. You fucking like 4 other niggas in that 6-month time period. Like,
that's what I'm saying. So it's like it don't
Nah.
really clarify things for me. But see, me personally, I'm not closed-minded to where I'm gonna judge a woman off because we all grown. Like I feel like men who are that judgmental, they put themselves in a trick bag and where the roles get reversed. So now you got women who play that role to try to act like they something to try to fool a nigga. Me, I'm accepting you as you come. I don't give a fuck. If we vibing, we vibing. All that extra shit, I don't got low self-esteem. So it's like I'm not gonna place my insecurities upon the woman like something is wrong with her. She living her life. You feel me?
Don't worry about the next person. It ain't got nothing to do with you.
So going back to that, how you feel like women can be different, because I know I have about 13 different personalities clinically. Okay, like let me just put that out there. But one of the things, like going back to our topic, like the breakup, you are a different person sometimes in the breakup. There have been times I've never personally had a hoe phase, like people talk about a hoe phase, because for me personally, like sex is a thing that is just so emotional. Like there have been times where after a breakup, I started dating another person, and after a couple of months when I have sex, if I'm not over that, I'm breaking down in another bathroom because the bathroom is my safe space, you know? But so I'm not the type that's built for a hoe phase. Some women that are, I'm not saying bad people, but I just don't have that mentality. Like I can't separate sex from, like, I'm the type of person that, like, if I come too hard, I might break down and cry. Like, you know, my dad follows me on my socials. I hope you know. But the thing that I'm talking about
is
like,
so hard. It is so hard.
Like how
it is
women
so hard to go from a long marriage and then want to have a whole face. Like endless people told me, girl, go out, have fun, live your life. But I was not made to be a hoe. I was made
like I was
to
a
just
wife. Now I'm about to be a hoe.
Right.
Like I have been a wife for 20 years. You want me to go out and all of a sudden just give my goodies to anybody? I cannot do it. I get attached. If I share my whole body with you, I'm sharing my mind with you. I'm sharing my soul with you. It's not just going to be, oh, I'm going to go lay down with this person and I'm just going to leave it like that. Absolutely not.
So like going back to the breakup question, there are some people that after a breakup, when we're talking about focusing on yourself, moving on, there's a lot of advice out here where women say, have a hoe phase. You cannot tell me on that fuck nigga free song, I'm FREE, that them bitches is in happy relationships. That's a song you bump when you're sick of a nigga. Like there are songs right now, all of Keisha Cole shit, all of women R&B, everyone has a song where it's fuck these niggas. Like there's a part where I guess, like, because that's what our friends do. And even it could be our friends in relationships. They be like, bitch, just focus on yourself now. You don't got to fuck every nigga you chill with, but we outside. So, like, I feel like sometimes men do unfairly judge us because they'll see it as, oh, she doing some hoe shit. And you may not see this bitch is hurting. Like, there's been times I've been out on the street twerking on headlights and I've been dragged out there. Bitch, help me. I'm dying. I don't want to be here. I want to be at home. You know,
it's like trying to
crying,
have fun. I mean, my last breakup obviously was like high school, but when that's the summer that I met my husband. But after that, and I was like, I just graduated. Like I'm young. I don't need to be sad about some boy that barely graduated. Like, but in my fun, I mean, it was the same. Like nowadays they do associate, like you got to get out here and just fuck everybody.
That's a good point. That's a good point that you bring up.
When I think of hot girl summer, and it's funny, so all of my friends, we were all in relationships that came out. We was out every weekend together, like, you know, having fun, but I'm like, we were all in relationships. 2 of them were already married. And then there was me and another girl, we were just dating. But when I think of that, I'm like, so some girl, hot girl, you might be with some dude the next, but for us, I'm like, we didn't take it.
So maybe we should reconsider when you're heartbroken, what is fun. So maybe as a good friend, instead of being like, bitch, let's go to the club, maybe we should be like, let's go to a sip and paint. Let's go heal. Let's go take a walk when you're going through that breakup. Like, let's do
that's not fun for y'all.
Because Black people, just Black people in general, Black and brown people, we don't know how to heal. We will smoke a blunt, we will drink, we will smoke cigarettes. We don't know how to, like, look, the last thing a nigga told me,
we suppress
some kale.
We
like,
do.
Go
we
to
hold
work out.
everything in. Everything gets held in and held in and held in because, like for me, I'm just now realizing why I am and why I am the way that I am. See, growing up, my parents, although my parents and I are very close, and we have that family dynamic, like we're close and everything, but we never said I love you. It was never like I love you, mom, I love you, dad, or when you leave out the house, I love you, I'll be back. Nothing like that. So now it's like, and it's not that I wasn't shown love. It was just like my parents, what they went through, we immigrated, to a different country from a civil war. So the things that they have seen, the things that I have seen and experienced, it never gave us that dynamic to where we're like, I love you, like I love you. Like to this day, I still never told my parents I love you before I leave the house. And it's sad to a point. We love each other, of course, but we just don't say it. So it's hard for me to open up to someone, and it's hard for me to now, show love, because it's not that I wasn't shown love, because my parents went to the ends of the earth for us, but I just don't know how to express love. So I don't know how to.
Being tarot readers, Truly and Brandi, when someone is going through something like that and they're asking for advice, if you could give the top 3 things to help someone heal during a breakup, to that, and you can't choose hot girl summer, you can't choose that. What would you, being in your position that you are in your community with your business, to actually push people to, because here's the thing, if somebody don't want to heal, they don't want to heal. They don't want to do the work, they're not going to do the work. But it's kind of our job sometimes we build relationships with our clients, because it's a different type of business. Because we got to try to change their mindset to make them want to do that. To see like, this is your future, this is the end goal, but you're only going to get here if you do A, B, C, and D. In your experience, what are the top things that you've seen that has worked with people going through certain things when it comes to relationships, divorce, breaking up?
You can go, Brandi.
For me, because I'm a therapist, I kind of speak from the therapist side, going through the stages of grief.
Can you explain those, the stages of grief? Break down the stages of grief. Oh shit. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Okay, it went off, but it came back.
Break down the stages of grief for us.
So the first stage is denial.
Denial.
So at first we are in denial. We're like, I don't want to deal with that. This is not happening. We'll get back together. The second stage is anger. So that's when we're mad. I'm gonna go fuck his friend. I'm gonna go fuck all these niggas. I'm a bad bitch, blah, blah. Anger.
I'm gonna get drunk. I'm gonna go party. I'm gonna post some shit. I'm gonna post that.
Fuck this, fuck him, all that, all the feels, right? And let's mention that anger is a secondary emotion. So anytime you see somebody's angry, they're hurt. It's sadness first before it becomes anger. But anyway, second stage
anger. Anger is what gets us the attention from social media, though. Yeah, anger is the shit.
That's the memes. That's the hot girl. That's all that stuff. It's all the feels.
Yeah.
Then we go to bargaining. We're like, so maybe if I would have did this, it would have lasted. And maybe if I love him more, then he'll act right. And maybe if I stop nagging so much, he'll stop cheating, right? So then it's the bargaining where it's like, maybe if I give something, I can get my way with this, right? He'll come back. He'll do right, which, okay, doesn't usually work. Then we get to the depressed stage. And it's the depression, the sadness. It's really setting in that, oh no, like this may be over. This person may not change. This is not going anywhere. So this is the depressive stage. The fifth stage is acceptance. And acceptance does not mean that like, it's okay and I'm happy. Acceptance is, okay, I'm really swallowing the reality that like, this is over. Like, this is really final. And I think, even after a breakup or after the divorce, after my divorce, the day that I had my court hearing, it was not over for me in my head. It was over on paper, but we still talked after that. We still talked about reconciling. He still spent the night. Like, so don't think that when you get to acceptance, that acceptance means final. It doesn't. And what we know about the stages of grief is that it's a cycle. So you may be at anger one day and the next day you're at acceptance. Your ass then went back to bargaining and now you're at depression. So don't think that it goes in order. And so again, when you get new information, because for me, I didn't divorce because of infidelity. I never had that issue. Never came home late, phone calls, nothing. After the divorce was final, I found out about. So I had to go through the stages because I didn't even know that. That's not why I divorced. So don't think that you get to acceptance and then it's over. You may be in acceptance and the next day you're in anger. Then the next day you're bargaining.
I think in general, healing, that's one of the big misconceptions that we have with healing, because so much as a society, when we look at success, we look at it as linear. We think of it as a race.
Yep.
We think of it as a straight line. Healing does not happen like that. You have good days, you have bad days. You have days where you're just like so productive at work. You're not even thinking about the shit.
Bad bitch days.
Then you can hear a song on the radio. Like one day I cried, Shrek 2 was on. Don't ask me why Shrek 2 just triggered me. I just started fucking bawling. Like, because I was literally just like, I thought I was over it. Like, what the fuck is this about? Because there's sometimes too, when it comes to trauma, because remember with grief, from a psychological standpoint, grief breeds trauma. And people think that trauma goes away. Trauma doesn't go away. With counseling, medication, with support, you can work and be functional with your trauma so that it's not taking up so much space of your life, making you not functional. But people don't forget that breakup never leaves you. It's now trauma, depending on what the fuck you went through. You have to learn how to now carry it with you. Like, bitch, it's baggage. I have baggage, but my baggage is Gucci. It's like, you gotta.
And you have to learn to get past it, because you cannot bring that trauma to the new relationship. You know, you cannot, and yes, even though sometimes you might feel like, oh my God, like this next new person is going to do the same, because I never fought for my marriage, because the way I see it is once you've cheated on me, that's it.
Yep, that was me. After I found out about the cheating, I wasn't reconciling after that. There was no fighting. I had to deal with that every time I found out about a new person. That I was married for 3 years and I'm finding out. So I'm trying to piece, well, where were we doing at this time? Well, so you're going through the stages again. So for me, when we're talking about what you do when, you break up, for me, I had to look at myself and say, what was I going through, or where was I at in my life that I ended up with a person like this, and that I ignored so many red flags that, I was oblivious to this. So a part of my acceptance was like, my self-esteem was so low that I thought that this was the best that I could do, or the best that I could get. And I didn't speak up when my gut didn't feel right because I didn't have proof, or I didn't question things that maybe I should have questioned. So you have to look at yourself. And I think a lot of times we don't want to be accountable. We want to say that nigga's a dog.
But your gut feeling was there.
Your gut feeling was there. You have to accept the fact that you ignored your gut feeling, and that maybe you wanted this so bad, you chose not to look at things, because like I said, there was never phone calls. He never came home late. So there were no like physical things. Nobody ever inboxed me or anything. But there were times where my stomach hurt and I didn't know why, but I was like, well, that's just your trauma from your high school breakup.
Can I offer up something? And maybe I'm going to sound like a weak bitch and this is going to drop a lot of people off of it. I don't consider cheating the end all be all for me to leave someone. And the reason I say that, because the reason for that is I would much so rather, I have screamed at a nigga for supporting another bitch's business over supporting my business more so than him being with the bitch. Because to me, it's certain things like, maybe I'm telling a little bit on myself. I've cheated in relationships. I've cheated. I don't consider myself a cheater now because one, I don't got the fucking time. And the other thing is too, like, I now know when I'm in love and when I'm not. Because there have been times where a lot of times as women, we're taught as if that's a good man and he's doing A, B, C, and D for you, then he's a good man. And I necessarily wasn't in love. And so wasn't a bad guy. And I found myself finding a nigga that I actually thought I was in love with and cheating, or not even like that, like being in a situation where I just cheated, and at the end
were
of the
your
day,
needs not being met when you cheated? Was it because your needs weren't being met?
No, I was cheating because I was a dog. Like, because I just didn't give a fuck. Like, I was cheating because like, I'm a woman where, and a lot of men in my life at some point in time, I felt like failed me. Like, you know, not even failed me, but just didn't have my back. So there's a point in time where I was moving, mentally thinking like a nigga. Like, and a lot of men that know me now know that I have this personality when it comes to certain things. I'm like a nigga. So there was times, and I wasn't like fucking every nigga that I was with, you know, but it was times where I was just like able to, I wasn't thinking in a way where I was respecting the person that I was with because I did not love them. Like, to me, as a woman, like the type of woman I am, if I'm in a romantic relationship with you, respect is a thing that comes first to me over romantic feelings, because feelings change. Like, so if a man disrespects me by supporting another bitch, I don't give a fuck if you fuck a bitch, because sometimes niggas fuck bitches. Like, sometimes they just do. Like, sometimes they do.
Sometimes, bitch, keep it real.
Yeah, but if you are supporting a bitch, if you're holding her baby, if you're at the graduation with the kids, to me, that's some other shit. Because that's some type of shit where it wasn't just physical. I would not put a nigga in that type of situation where, you know, I'm like, I feel like it's different things. It's different, like you said, it's different boundaries. Like, yeah, because my thing is, one thing I'm not going to do in 2022 is run around the town like fucking Daffy Duck trying to figure out if a nigga is going to cheat on me. I'm not going to do that, because sometimes the more you focus on that, you're actually asking for that shit. You're creating it. Before I cheated on my baby father, he was accusing me of cheating on him. And it was a point in time I was like, damn, you screaming at me every day. I might as well. I might as well. Yeah. And sometimes men think like that. And so I feel like, going back to it, we have to be able, before we say I do, before we get attached to a person, we have to be able to have that, shut the fuck up, cat, my cat in the background. We have to be able to have enough self-control to say, okay, I've been seeing this nigga a couple times a week. I'm starting to feel like this. Am I ready for a relationship? Is this person going to be good for me? Is cheating something that I could deal with? Because there's certain times where niggas carry themselves as cheaters and bitches miss it. We miss it. Yeah. One thing with me, I can look at a nigga right now and tell if he's gonna cheat on me or not. If a nigga is tall, if he's fine, if he got a good job, a lot of other bitches want him. So you may have to compete. You like, period.
Oh no, it's no competing now. It's no competing now. I'm either going to be a wife or a widow. At this point in my life, I'm either going to be a wife or a widow. I'm with you. Don't play with me.
Yeah, like, and that's part of the reason
I'm a runner. I'll just leave you. I'm not doing all that chasing and fighting you and shit. I'm just gonna leave, because you're the loss. If you fuck up with me, you have lost. I'm never.
But you,
yeah, like, so.
But you know, there are men out here that can really be. You can be the love of their life, and they just fuck bitches. We've seen it. We're tarot readers. Yeah. We've seen it. We've seen women. I've had women that are happily.
I don't know. Exactly. I'm not dealing with it. My thing is, the only reason a nigga will let you do that, because you still let him fuck on you. You still let him, again, like you said, it's a respect thing. A man's not gonna do that to me if he respect me. Seriously, he gotta respect me. And if you don't respect me, you gotta get your my energy, period.
It's the principle. It's the principle. It's the principle of the whole shit.
Baby, honestly, you will always be back around. You will always ask what I'm doing. You will always wonder about me. If you lose me, it's a loss for you, buddy. And I would rather be with no nigga. This nigga can love me to my draws. But if he's up here disrespecting me in any way, he can go.
But this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying, though. I'm not trying to be funny. If I had the perfect husband, right? And
there's no perfect husband.
But I'm saying, if I'm happy with somebody, and I don't know that he's cheating.
Hey, tell her she's lying. You married.
Like I'm saying, if I'm with somebody and I don't know that he's cheating, and I never know that he's cheating, and I die, do I need to know?
No. I mean, why not?
But you did. You did.
Like, what if I want a nigga that can cheat good? Don't have a bitch keying up my car. Don't have a bitch around my son. But if you're gonna cheat, have enough respect for me.
Let me just add on to that. Okay, there was a time, once upon a time, where the other bitch knew how to carry herself as the other bitch.
She knew
there
her
was
place.
A time where the other bitch didn't have to come and blow up the spot and be like, okay, I'm going to report you to your chain of command. I'm going to ruin your career. I'm like, act accordingly. If you're going to be a side bitch, then you know you're always going to be a number 2 pencil. Act accordingly. Right. I had no
my
idea.
ex-husband girl, she never
had no
approached me.
idea.
I found out about her
Like,
after. Yeah, I didn't know
I
either.
had no idea. For all this time. No, for all this time, I had no idea that the fuckery had started back in 2006. I had no idea. I had no clue because he was present, he was there and everything like that, but it was all a lie. My whole life has been a lie. I'm literally living a fucking Tyler Perry joint.
What do y'all think? The guys are quiet. Look, the guys are quiet, but they're pacing back and forth and shit. Y'all got some shit to say. Y'all got some shit to say. What's going on? What's going on? Unmute yourselves. We want to hear from y'all.
If I really fuck with a girl, I'm really not looking at no other woman for real. Like, keep it a buck. I know everybody ain't the same for real, but like, I guess that does tie into everybody got different personalities, because if I'm not into a certain,
you're
like,
saying that now though, right? You're saying that as where you are now, because you know we used to date. I don't want to put you on blast. I don't want to put you on blast, but it's a couple of bitches that used to show up on Skype.
For sure.
Where you're at now. Sure. Okay.
Now is that coming? Is that coming after you've done work on yourself and like you let go of insecurity, you done your shadow work? Like, because I feel like niggas that are cheating, they're trying to cover up an insecurity, a mommy issue, a dad, like, you know what I mean? So guys that are like fucking mass bitches, they're looking for that power or that sense of I'm that nigga. A nigga that really know he that nigga and love himself and respect himself, he don't have to have a million bitches. So how did you get to this space? How did you get to this space where you don't need all that? What does it take for you to get there? Have you lost something or?
All right, so my daughter's 7. I'm divorced. I think I was married for like 2 years. I was in the military. But like I said, both my parents been married for 31, 32 years now. And I feel like almost every child kind of looks for what their parent has, whether it's abusive or, you know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, like, my dad kind of, I wouldn't say submitted to my mother. I would kind of look at it as like, if two people are going to come live together, at the end of the day, they're going to put everything out on the table. And then from there, they're going to choose the path both of them are going to take together. You know what I'm saying? So my mom was like, I'm going to join the military. My dad was like, I bet I'm going to rock with you. So from then, you know, he a truck driver, so he drove trucks. She retired. Then they started a truck driving business together. So he, at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? He waited it out. She still look out for him at the end of the day. So me and my baby mother was in the military. We got married. When she got pregnant, I got out the military and I came here with my child. And then when I came here, I didn't know, or I didn't want to know, either way, it happened. She was cheating on me back in Fayetteville. I'm in Virginia. And I think that shit was going on for like 2 years before she brought me divorce papers and then took my kid.
She took your baby.
Yeah. So she's currently married again. She's pregnant with somebody else's kid, and she also has custody of my kid out somewhere else. It's how would I describe it? It's retarded. But like, I don't know who was talking about the stages of grief, but that was definitely a reality for me. Like I said, my daughter's 7, so like I pretty much got a good calendar of like how long it's been since everything happened, since it was pretty much since she got pregnant. So there's been like a 7-year thing has been going on for me, and I would say only in like the last year and a half could I say I'm like truly over it. But somebody was saying like once you learn new things, you still start that same cycle over and over again. So like every new person, you know what I'm saying? Like every new thing, it's still something I have to deal with personally. But when it comes to me, bringing it all together, like now when I talk to somebody or I want to get involved with somebody, I definitely let them know, like, I have a kid. My kid has autism. You know what I'm saying? So that takes a level of maturity for the other person to be able to be around my kid. And like, I would like to say I'm scarred for real. Like,
So is that what you went through with the woman that you put a ring on her finger and decided to build? Are you feeling like, so that kind of sat you down a little bit and made you look at connecting with people differently? Because I think the original question was like,
right,
you know, niggas that cheat, niggas that are on some hoe shit. Like, with what you've been through in your perspective, what you went through.
It was more of a reality check for me. So like, I feel like if I put on a certain outfit, I can pretty much go outside and find anybody I want to have sex with and have sex with them. At the end of the day, everybody's looking for somebody they want to build with. And the one person I chose to build with was probably like literally my worst pick of the lot. In my
Join
opinion.
the club, bro. Join the club.
Nolan, what do you have to add, Chicago?
Me,
yeah,
personally, like I respect like where bro coming from. Like I get it. I understand the trauma and shit that come with shit. You feel me? I got a baby mother I was never with, but we was friends. You feel me? I'm going through a custody hearing now that I started this shit. I'm the one who went and filed the paperwork and all that shit. And I do get them traumas like me, whether it's a romantic relationship or a friendship or any type of relationship with anybody. The way people are, and if you trusted them, whatever type of way, whether it was romantic, based upon loyalty, whatever it was, when people go against what you have for them and they show you a new side of them, you just have to believe them type of people. But I can't say you can't take those traumas to every situation. Now, it might make you move with more caution like you did the last, of course, because you're supposed to learn lessons. It's not a loss, it's a lesson. That's the way I look at it. You feel me? So
as two black men that have been through these like extremely traumatic situations, my next question is, how are you processing? Are you talking to a professional? Are you having your own version of hot girl summer? Are you out sport fucking? Are you out drinking and smoking? Like, let's look.
Hoochie daddy. Hoochie daddy. Hoochie daddy.
I pretty much like, I'm a psychological person, so I could kind of like, no funny, heal myself. But I have, what can I say? I'm so much of myself that I might come across as a red flag a lot of times. You feel me? Because
explain that.
Because all right, what I learned is, just like you said earlier, why would you tell a man what you're looking for so he can pretend to be that? You feel me? Boom. When I say I might come across as a red flag, I'm the person that's I feel like women are so used to men faking it that when they see men who are themselves, that can be a red flag for them. You feel me? Yeah, because they used to men just lying or whatever. But me, I might be the greatest relationship you ever had, but I might come across like, oh yeah, he a wild one for real. But I'm not on that type of shit. My thing is, I could mess with a girl. You determine how the fuck we about to act. You feel me? Like, if I'm messing with you like, and it comes across.
All right, I think he's paused for a second. All right. That's
Could I answer the question as to like, as for me, what I would do or what I would tell you guys if you want to throw a breakup situation? Oh, you wanna finish, Chicago?
Nah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that if it were anybody going through a breakup, man or woman, anyone going through a breakup, I would suggest, first of all, before anything, I would suggest you writing a releasing letter. Okay, because I'm gonna do self-help for people who ain't got no money. Let's say you ain't got no money, you don't got no money to go to a therapist. You ain't got no money to go get a therapist. I would suggest you writing a releasing letter. That's letting yourself know what you not want anymore in your life, in your relationship, in love. What isn't working for you? What is just like really has been fucking with you, not just in this relationship, but period. I would ask that you write all of this out. And until you write it to your hands hurt, I want you to write one page. I want you to write it till you don't got nothing else to write, till it's all out of you. And I would suggest that you read it back to yourself, fold it up, and burn it. So you all together. It's not yours. That's not what you are anymore. And then I will ask you to write, when you have some time, a manifesting letter for what you want in love, for what you want in a relationship, and not just out of this person, but as a unit and from yourself. What kind of woman do you want to be in this relationship? What kind of man do you want to be in this relationship? How do you want God to work within both of you to create more?
You know what the biggest thing for me that I found that has helped me get through breakups and things that, and maybe it's, I really, and maybe this is me kind of thinking like a man again. The best thing that helped me is to start focusing on my work. Because one thing that that it just really helped me to, because at work I can show up as a different person. I don't show up as the person that just got cheated on or the one that's brokenhearted. At work, I play a different role. I'm the leader, or I'm this, or I'm that, and just focusing on my money. And that is a way that it's easier for me to see progress, like goal setting. Like I'm going to work every day, and that way too, like we talked about earlier, life still happens, because there are some people, a lot of people, they'll let one thing stop them from going to work. You know, and I remember when I was in high school, very young, I had a boyfriend and I think he cheated on me or something. And I remember crying about it and I didn't go to work. And I remember my dad coming into my room and I was sitting on my bed crying. And the first thing he said, I'm thinking we're about to have like a Cosby Show moment. And he goes, "Are you stupid? Are you stupid?" And I was like, "What?" I'm like, "What the fuck out, Dad?" And he's like, "You literally missed work because this boy decided to do something. Like, say it with me." And like, it was something about that. He was like, and he also said something that I carry with me with everything. He said, "You can make this, let this defeat you, or you can let it empower you." And it was one of those things where like, I didn't really realize it when I was a kid, because, and, you know, and it's something that you don't want to hear, especially when they come and are you being fucking dumb right now? But it's something that has allowed me, when I am very hurt, to just kind of keep pushing forward. And now that I have seen therapists, now that I do talk to a lot of people, I understand that, you know, you kind of walk a fine line with that too, because sometimes when you bury yourself in work, you're burying the other shit. You're not really working through it. So and it comes with another part of it too, that also really helps me when I'm dealing with hard things. You got to tune into your body. A lot of people say like, get to know yourself, heal yourself, but we don't really break it down to a point where you got to get into your body sometimes. Like there are a lot of times where I'm feeling like I want to cry, and I say it's a meditation technique that is called noting. And anytime you're feeling something, you know, when you're quiet, you say, "Oh, my throat feels a little tight, my stomach hurts, I feel like I want to cry." And noting is not necessarily trying to fix it, but it's just saying, "Hey, this is going on. It's okay. You're not always going to feel like that." And I feel like as Black people, we're not really taught, we're always taught the go to work side of it, the take care of your kids side of it, to be unnecessarily strong, but we're never taught to come back.
And it's true. And I think that that's our flight or fight response, because parents will tell us, "You're sitting over here crying, but that person is still going on with life.
You're hurting. You're more
like think about us as
in my new relationship, like I have my ups and downs, like, and I'm saying me for myself, I have who's like a blessing from God. He will tell me, he's like, "You're sitting up here letting these people rob you of your sleep, of your peace of mind, of your just everything, but they're going on with their life. They don't give a fuck that you're crying, and nobody gives a fuck that Lita's heartbroken or Lita was done wrong or whatever the case may be."
But you know,
they're still going on with their life. So go on with yours. They didn't give a fuck about you.
And you know, that's not even our fault as a people though, because even like, you know, thinking about back to slavery, you can literally watch your son get sold to another plantation and they're like, "Okay, niggas, this cotton better get picked." Okay. Or like back with Hispanic people, like, "Okay, y'all shout welga all the fuck you want, but you better get these grapes," you know, like you still need to pay for shit. We're not taught as people of color to, yes, this is an issue. And not to mention all this fucking legislation where they're like, "Oh, this shit isn't going on." These are the after effects to things that were put in place historically to keep us at work. And so I think it's very important for us to talk about it as Black people. Like, we don't deal with trauma well because it was by design to not deal with trauma well. Because it's literally everything here.
And you know what? My babe, he's here with us. And I wish he would go on to give his insight. But he just said, like, that's why we as a people, we need to break that cycle. We need to break that cycle, because you don't need to bring toxicity into a new relationship. You need to break that cycle, end it where it ended, and leave it as the past. Because if you bring it to your future, it's never going to work out with anyone else.
And I tell you guys to write releasing letters for your life as well. Like, even what you're going through day to day. But since we're talking about breakups, literally in regards to your breakup and in regards to what you don't want, listen, I don't want a man who's going to cheat on me. I don't want a man who's going to lie to me. I don't want a man who's going to da-da-da-da. And I want to be a woman who's in my feminine energy, who is able to be calm, who's able to be trusting. I want to fully love with my whole heart. Like, you tell God what you want. Fully.
Yep.
Manifest it. You
I
can
think
become
part of
this man become that man, but if you're not allowing him to become that man, by allowing him to fuck on other people, by allowing him to still be in your energy, and allowing him to fuck on you, and allowing him to not give all that he can give, and you not giving all you can give. You are allowing it. You have to start with you. We always worry about, well, nobody gives a fuck that you feeling that way, and it's not about them giving a fuck. I feel this way. Fuck what they feel. I don't care what other people are feeling. I'm hurt, so let me figure out how I'm going to deal with this. I'm going to take some time. Yes, I am going to take 4 days off. Yes, I am. I am.
But that's another thing too that you brought up, that we have to, moving forward with our kids, with the people that we come with, the next generation, we don't communicate well as Black and brown people. White people, man, will cancel somebody and have essays and shit. White people always want to sit you down. Look, let something go down at the job. It's a whole memo. Let's have a conversation. Niggas do not have conversation. Like when we were kids, your mama was like, stop motherfucking talking back. You're not even talking back. You telling him I ain't do it. And we're raised, like, it's in our culture for us to just shut up, take it. It's gonna be over. We're gonna get through it. I'm gonna hustle. Fuck that bitch. One day I'm not gonna, but we don't really fix it. We don't. Like, and that's why, like, you hear these stories and white people is out here doing it. You ever been over white people's house and like, and their kids just talk to them like people? We be sitting there like, what? Oh, like, you know, and we thinking that shit is so crazy whole time. It's like, damn, like that they're actually, like, you know, getting somewhere. Like, that's what, like, you ever see, perfect example. I live close to Washington, DC. You ever see white people just jaywalk like they run the world? They just free. They just fucking free. They're taught that you don't have to deal with this dumb shit. Whereas our grandmother had to get smacked around the kitchen. You're like, well, that's marriage. You know, like, we have to, this is what we're talking about as generational curses. This is the shit that the Kendrick album is talking about. This is the shit that I feel like, instead of social media, for us to be at the red lights, twerking on them headlights, hot girl summer, where we need to sit the fuck down and be like, all right, niggas, what's really going on?
We gotta ask ourselves, what I talked about this on I think the last live we were on, but it's about asking yourself, what do I want to release from this situation? Like, seriously, what can I not continue to move on doing? I cannot move on one more day living this life, doing this, being this type of person. You have to ask yourself what I have to let go of, because I don't want this anymore.
And like, sometimes it's not as easy, right?
No,
it's not as easy, because here's the other thing too, being Black and brown people.
But it's easy for you to admit, though.
Yeah,
it's easy. I don't want to be a mean person. It's easy to admit that I want to spend more time with my daughter. It's easy to admit that I need to release smoking. That, like, we know this, but if it's easy to do, no. Once you admit it, it's about acknowledging this is shadow work. Now, what are 3 ways that today I can stop doing this? Even if it's not cutting the cold turkey, but let's say is it smoking? All right, I'm only going to smoke during my break time and after I leave from work. You have to start working with yourself. It's communicating with yourself first, giving yourself some time.
And one thing that I wanted to say too, like the other side of it too, we have to, as a community, start really reaching out to the resources that are there. And if we are in a position where we know some of the resources, sharing that as well. Like, for instance, I was having panic attacks my whole life and I didn't know I was having panic attacks. I didn't. A lot of niggas was like, oh, you need to drink. Oh, don't go to them doctors. They gonna give you shit. You're gonna be a zombie. Oh, don't go. Like, I was to a point where I had a therapist that was a great 5-star rated therapist, but because I saw Get Out, I would not go to a white person for therapy. Like, it's shit like that. Like, where on the other side of like, because I had all the willpower in the world. I had all the willpower where I want to get over this person. I want to do this. I want to get better. But on the other side of the mental health of things, when you're broke as fuck and a therapist has cost you $100 flat out and you got to choose over getting some Similac or some pull-ups over going to talk to a white person and they may not even really understand what the fuck you're going through or doing other shit. That's like the thing that also as well, one thing that I want to do on my platform is open up about mental health, real mental health, because literally I know a lot of people, I know a lot of Black and brown people, and I hear some of the shit that they talk to me about, and I'm like, bro, you need some Adderall. You need some Zoloft. You need something. You need to talk to somebody. And the only help that they're getting is, nah, you need to smoke a blunt. Nah, you need to come out and party. Nah,
and that's true because Black and brown people were taught, if you share, if you show your feelings, it's weak. If you cry, even my own mom, and I mean, why she was the way she was with us. My mom is a have an argument or a fight or anything like that, because if they ever had even a disagreement, nothing. But we are also taught.
Oh shit, that sounded good.
I don't know what she's talking about, y'all.
But your feelings, you cannot hold your.
I'm gonna mute her real quick. Together.
It is. Know how you're capable of being such a happy person, you're looked as weak. That's where we need to break the cycle.
And that's hard. Like, I think that's a hard thing. Like, because one thing about that's part of our identity, right? As Black and brown people, being strong, that's our whole thing. Like, that's one thing I like about being a Black woman is being seen as strong. Like, I literally know that there is nothing that I can't do. I know that I always can get through something, but at the same time, you know, when I show up in relationships, I have to make sure, like, am I showing up as the best version of myself, or am I showing up as just strong for no reason? You know, you know, that's a whole other thing when we talk about mental health. And that's something that I wanted to also bring up in this conversation, though, because I feel like when I went through some of the worst breakups in my life, if I would have had better healthcare, or if I would have known in whatever stage of my life, like right now, I feel like I have the best healthcare because I'm making 6 figures. But what about people that aren't? Well, how does that look? Right now, my prescriptions are $2 for a month worth of, you know, whatever, and other people is not. Like, and not even to mention, it took me almost a year to find the right therapist to say, hey, not only am I going to give you this type of medication, we're going to check your thyroid. And I was like, what's a thyroid? I had no idea that could have been messing with my depression and anxiety. And I lived on this earth for 30 years. My parents have a background in military, and no one has ever sat me down and said, hey, this could be going on. So I feel like moving forward, I'm a mother. I have to be in tune. And even if my son isn't sad, we all as parents, we fear the sex talk. But along with the sex talk, we need to be having the anxiety talk. Hey, this is in your family, not just the cancer, not just the sugar. We need to have these conversations that's like, hey, your grandmother was diagnosed bipolar. She never got help for it. And nobody fucks with her now because of it. And now she's crazy. Like, you know, we don't have
because back in the day, they didn't know what that was. Back in the day.
Oh, they would lock you up like American Horror Story.
You're an older person. So now we just wrote you off. We're going to put you in the home. And that's where it went. But we never got down to like the root of how did my grandmother get to this point? Why did her mind just leave her? And why are we at this point? We never got to that because back in the day, it just would, no one knew what was going on. No one knew what real depression was. I never in my life up until now in my 40s knew what ADD was, what OCD and all of this shit was, nothing like that. Like just behaviors that all of a sudden you are having and you're experiencing like now, like it's weird. It's really weird because I never thought that I would be that type of person that would experience something like that. But now for my own peace of mind, after living alone, after being with someone for so many years, like I have to make sure all the doors are locked. Like I have to make sure that all the doors are locked because for the longest time, I was so scared that something was going to happen to me, that somebody was coming to get me, that somebody was going to come through that door and do something to me. It happened. I don't know if I spoke it into existence. I don't know what happened, but guess what? Thank God for Castle Doctrine in Texas, because when somebody tried to break into my home, you better believe I had my shotgun ready and it was done. It was done. But again, these are things that having a partner, having a spouse and having something like that for so long, I never worried about any of this shit.
I don't think when at the dating phase, and that's another thing too, in the dating stage, no one wants to bring that shit up, right? No one wants to bring up, hey, what was your childhood like? You talk about Pokemon and shit, but you don't really talk about how the divorce made you feel alone and how that never left you. No one wants to have those talks.
It's funny because right when I started dating my husband, so most people don't know, we're talking about social media and breakups. My parents were separated for like 3 years and divorced my senior year. So he met me at the height of like all of that. And I remember that going back, how you said, how do you know like your person? He was the only person that summer, like going through, because my mom had moved out of our hometown. So I was staying with my dad and it was just like a lot going on. He was the only one. I remember he took me to the beach and asked, he was like, are you okay? And I cried for like 3 hours probably, because he was the only person that had ever like had asked. And so we didn't need to talk about it because he saw like firsthand, like, oh, this is why she acting this way. But little does he know, I mean, that's just me in general, but he got to see like, okay, my parents, they were separated like 3 years and officially divorced only a year before they got remarried. So that's a whole nother story, but they've been together for like 32 years. So I like took on trauma from their breakup. Cause of course, you grow up, like my parents have been together for as long as I can remember. So I watched like from the outside, like that breakup and how it affected my dad and my mom. And then me and my sister, and I think I took it harder than my sister because my father is not her biological father, but he raised her since the age of like 2. But I'm like, that's all I've known, my mom and my dad, that's all I've ever known. And so I got to see like their stages of grief. And I don't know if they made it to acceptance because by that time they were already remarried, but I got to see in real time, each of them go through all of that, but then all their trauma had been just kind of like dumped on me. So in that I'm dating this new person, I'm watching my parents, whatever, go through that. And for a while I was like, I'm going to end up like, for some reason it was stuck in my head, I'm going to end up like this for some reason, like we're going to be together for the rest of our life, some reason, and then it's going to snap. And so for a while I was like, I don't want to go through that.
Do you still think like that? Do you still have that fear every now and then being a married woman that at some point that could happen?
I think I do, not as much anymore, but I think sometimes I'm just like, what if it just doesn't work? That could just be, my anxiety. But I don't think it's uncommon for anybody to think that way. If people say they don't, I would tell them that they're lying, because like people like, oh my God, you guys have the best relationship, this and that. And I'm like, yeah, but I think it's just one of those things like, what if it doesn't work? And it's not that something bad.
I agree because we're a generation where we think the worst before the best comes along. Yeah. So I agree with you 100% on that.
Why do you think that is?
fight or flight.
Because honestly, on my point of view, I feel like we have been through so much trauma and so much negativity in our lives that now you just expect the worst to come before the best.
And
That's
so
another form of
you expect the storm
Yeah.
before the calm.
Yeah. And then when you see different relationships,
you will literally be in a car and swear that you'll be like, damn, what if I just got hit by a car right now?
right? It's stuff like
we as fight or flight, we are always trying to prepare ourselves for the worst. Always.
Well, think about our generation though. We eat that shit up. For instance, like my favorite documentaries on Netflix is when it's like this very successful person was a piece of shit the whole time. Like we eat that shit up. We love hearing like, oh, look at Jay-Z and Beyonce fucking each other up in that elevator. Like, you know, we like shit like that. That shit that we eat up. And I don't know, like, what is that? It's like that thing where it's like, because there are some times where I'm in charge and I get emails from the CEO all the time in my company being like, you're a rock star, you're doing this shit. And every day I go to work and I'm being like, today is the day I'm getting fired. Somebody saw my titties online. Like, it's just gonna be like,
it breeds passion. Like when you're in something toxic, or when it breeds passion. Like you feel your heart start beating fast. You like, ooh, whatever it is, it gets you enticed. It does. I don't know why.
I think as Black people and Black and brown people, we always feel like it's not, because I think there's something in us, like, you know, I don't know what that is, where we feel like we're still, our place is not permanent. Our success is not permanent in America. It's not. You always kind of feel like, yes, I can do this, but I gotta be perfect. I gotta watch out. I don't have like a lot of room to move. You know, I can't, we always kind of have that. I feel like this culture, this generation is changing a lot more things. There's like 51 fucking genders right now, and you can't talk about none of them. You can't even call nobody fat nowadays. But like that's a whole nother thing. I think it's moving in the right direction. But
can I just interrupt, and can I just ask what everybody's star signs are? I'm a Virgo.
Aries.
big Leo energy over here.
I'm a Libra.
Okay. So we got everybody from the whole spectrum. Okay. So that's interesting because we've all gone through the same trauma, and yet we all have experienced the same, how do I get out of this? How do I move on from this? How do I cope?
And that's the point of the podcast, because we're not the only ones.
Exactly. It's a collective thing, and that's why I love what we do. Like as tarot readers, being on this podcast, all of it. It's because as a collective, we have all experienced the exact same things in different ways. And we all try to work and try to figure out how the hell am I going to do it? How the hell am I going to figure it out? How the hell am I going to get out of the cycle? And we can all use the same methods. We just we tend not to, because we are in our own shell thinking they won't understand. They won't understand where I'm coming from. They won't understand the cycle that I've been through, not realizing that everybody's going through the same thing in a different way.
Because I feel like now we're starting to see, remember how our parents said, we want you to do better than I did. We always took it as make more money. But I feel like now how I'm treating MJ, I want you to be happier than I was.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I want you to do better in your marriage, in your relationships, and how you're showing up in school, whatever it is that makes you happy. Feel better than I felt in this shit and navigate better. But on the other side of it too, Black and brown people, like we gotta still be competitive in American society. So on the other side of that, I can't just sit him home and we be burning sage.
Or even more, even just something as simple as be more present than I was, because my parents, like going back to, we came as refugees, and people think that when you come from a third world country and you come as a refugee, that you are given everything. You are not. My father already had 2 jobs lined up as a refugee. So we did not receive no food stamp. We did not receive anything like that. We all lived in a 1-bedroom apartment for the longest time. And you know what? We were happy. We were happy because we were as a family. But just even saying, be more present than I was. Like, I will never hold that against my parents, because when they couldn't be at that little show for school or whatever, because my dad was trying to be out there getting bread.
That just made me think of something that I just feel like somebody has to hear, and I feel like some people are going to fuck with it. It's another story. When I moved into my new apartment, in this apartment that I'm in now, with my son, this is the first apartment I've ever had, and I'm not afraid to say it, that was in my own name, mine and only shit, you know, no parent help, no, I did it. And I remember one day trying to screw together an IKEA shelf, trying to put it together, and I remember crying because I couldn't do it. And I remember thinking, like, I was with a nigga for 3 years and he should be the one helping me do this. And I'm sitting here fucking my nails up trying to do it. And then there was a point in time where I had to stop, and I was like, your father should have taught you how to do that. Your father, who are you really fucking mad at here? Like, and that was a whole other thing where I started reaching that acceptance part of the breakup, because I started really realizing, like, I'm not really hurt. Yeah, I'm hurt about the situations that I was in when I was in this relationship, but I felt like in a lot of ways, I was really in certain situations because of the relationships with my parents. Like, and it was that instance in that moment where I was like, I need to fix this shit. And it was so crazy. That kind of led to me having the relationship right now that I have with my father. That's a lot better. That is a lot healthier. And I'm able to, I think that's kind of why I'm in a mindset now where I'm just like, sometimes a nigga is going to be a nigga, and it's not necessarily, it's not my fault. I'm no longer going to internalize it and take that on and add that to my trauma.
Right.
Like, you know, and I think that is something that just, you know, it's just something that when you said that, it made me feel that, like, it just in terms of like healing.
No, honestly, and it's also the gender roles as well. You're like, my thing is, again, you from the last time when we talked, you was like, my mom had me dressed up from head to toe. So in the same instance, do you think that your dad is supposed to have you in the garage with tools?
I feel like, so my dad, so a little bit with my background, and I don't want to tell too much of the story because it's not mine to tell.
Right.
My mother was a military. My dad was in the military, and my mother, and I found this out later, she was never in love with my dad. She wanted to get away from home, and he was the type of nigga where he was good looking, whatever, and he had goals. She was trying to move out her mama house, and she knew she was gonna bag a military man. She got a job on a base. She said, I'm going to find me a nigga that I want to see the world. And, you know, lo and behold, they end up having me and making it work as well as it could work when you do have those motives, like we talked about, right? Whole time my dad in love with her, fell in love. But you know, when people get together with that, God don't bless mess, right? So it ended up the way that it ended up. With me, my mom saw me. My mom is a narcissist. She's never really loved me. Like, and I hate to say it like that. She loves how I made her feel as her kid. Like, she loved the fact that I was very pretty. Like that was the whole thing. She dressed me up as a baby doll. She liked the attention that she got when people used to say, your daughter looks just like Raven Simone. Because remember back in the 90s, Raven Simone was like, you know, that was the shit that she liked, that attention. It made her feel good. It made her feel like a good mother. You know, she liked the fact that she used to tell me I was sick all the time. I believe that I had crazy fucking asthma, because anytime she took me to the hospital and she's sitting there, you look like a good mother. Whereas my dad's not a talker. He is now. And my mom didn't work. She was at home. So he was working, and he's in the military. My dad was the type of nigga, like, when he came in from the house, you couldn't say, daddy. He'd be like, young, I got to do some shit right now. And he'd go up, he's a computer guy, be on the computer. So he was around, but not really. My mother left when I was 5 years old. And so the dynamic that we had was, I was her shining star, and then she left. And so I grew up feeling
you were her little trophy.
Yes, I grew up feeling like the only parent that gave a fuck about me, that I had a relationship with, is gone now. You know, so my dad soldiered on, took care of us. I knew that he took care of us. We always had Christmases and all the shit, but I never could go to my dad and be like, Dad, I like this boy. I was never a daddy's girl. So how I kind of grew up with the mindset of, I'm out here, I'm a nigga, I'm gonna take care of me, I got this baby, this is this. I didn't realize until I was in a relationship that failed, that I was just like, young, I'm parenting my son. Like, my son is very smart. He's not very smart because that was the plan. He's very smart because sometimes he had to figure shit out on his own. Like he did. He had to, because I was parenting him the same way and not even realizing all I knew how to do. And it wasn't until I lost everything. And when I say everything, I'm hurt and heartbroken from this relationship with this nigga that I thought was going to be the end all be all, where I finally get some counseling and I had that epiphany about my dad, where I was just like, bro, I'm more fucked up. It's a lot more going on than what I thought was going on.
Because it was a cycle.
Yeah, and we date our
It was
parents.
We
We
date
get a
them.
relationship.
It was
We get a
cycle.
relationship with our parents.
And
So if
so
you had
we
an emotionally
continue,
unavailable
and that's the
parent,
bad
you
thing.
find
That's the
emotionally
bad
unavailable
thing
partner.
about us.
Yes, because like you said, we date our parents. When I found out that guy had another bitch, no bullshit, I broke down crying.
That part.
And I remembered myself when I was 5 years old and my mom walked out the door. Broke down the same way. It was the same.
Abandonment.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
that's what I remembered. I was back at that place and I was helpless and I was just like, young, what am I gonna do? Like, and that's why I wanted to talk about that podcast, because that moment for me was my line in the sand. There was no trap, pray, love before that shit happened. There was no trap, pray, love. That I was not the same person after that shit happened. That was the moment where I said, and it wasn't a thing where I was like, I'm gonna reinvent myself. It was a thing where I said, I want to get a tarot card reading to see what's next. If there is a next. My first tarot card reading, I said, it's going to be all the death card because I ain't making it out of this. And it wasn't until they were like, there's hope, this is going to happen, and this, where I got more into the shit. And I felt good. Like it was a spark of hope.
That's
It
what
was
brought
a
me
teeny
into it
spark
too.
of hope.
Dark night of the soul.
Yes, it
Your
was a
dark
teeny
night
spark.
of the soul.
And then tarot was never a healing thing for me when it started. It was because I'm a mathematical person. Remember I told y'all I like to bury myself in my work? I said, I'm gonna learn this shit. I was learning it just to learn the meanings and card games and shit. I wasn't helping nobody. And then it turned into helping somebody. And then I started relating and people coming to me just like that day I felt when I said I felt a little bit better. Someone told me I did that and I said, fuck, that's why I'm here.
And that's what I was going to say to earlier. The last two stages of grief, when this is when people are addicted to drugs and stuff like that, is going back and apologizing, going back to the people and reconciling, like getting through those issues that you actually went through together, those hard issues, and like really talking through those, and then it's helping somebody else. And that's what we do. We have to go back to those issues and be like, you know what, this is what happened, like dead ass. And because we have to get that clarity. If we can't get that clarity, we can't assist anybody else on getting that clarity either.
What do the guys think? What do you guys think? How do y'all feel? You guys get quiet. Y'all so respectful.
I don't know. they don't walk away, to be honest.
I see somebody. I see some dreads.
You want to ask what we think about what?
Just what you think in general.
In general about what?
Just like just healing, moving on. Like you as a dad, like what?
Yeah.
Knowing what you know. Like if your kid were to come to you right now, is like, young, I don't know if I'm depressed. I don't know if I'm depressed or not. I'm fucked up. Like what? Just knowing what you know now, like what would you tell them?
I mean, honestly, how can I say it? I feel like everybody healed the way they heal. You know what I mean? Like I can try to help him or guide him in a direction of where he'll feel better about what he's going through. But I don't know. I feel like the trials and tribulations of life is just different for everybody. Everybody handles shit different. Some people can self-heal. Some people need therapy. Some people, you know, might have to go through a whole phase. It's different for everybody.
Does a hoe phase, do you feel like you really heal from a hoe phase?
I mean, I don't feel like a woman should, because like I feel like girls have been hurt that I've known in Hold on.
CO, how do you feel?
I feel, you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I feel like it starts in past generations, and like you was getting at, like you didn't know you was fucked up until you realized like the shit happened that your mom did and shit, you know what I'm saying? But like you were saying earlier, I do know you, so I know somewhat of your mom. So it doesn't seem like she really cares about self-healing in a sense, you know what I'm saying? Like figuring out what's wrong with her and fixing it. So like it has to start with you. And the thing you realize is like you're not your mom or your dad. You literally have both of their problems. And like that's the stage of life I'm at right now. Like, damn, I'm not just as fucked up as my dad is. I'm kind of just as fucked up as my mom, but my mom does a good job of disguising how she's fucked up. You know what I'm saying? So I'm over here violently rampaging over a girl, you know what I'm saying?
Shooting out the headlights.
You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, when I really, other than I have emotions other than anger, you know what I'm saying? Like I do fall into deep depressions, like, damn, why is it like, nigga, am I just that fucked up? You know what I'm saying? Shit don't work out because I'm just that fucked up, you know what I'm saying? And that really comes from my mom, you know what I'm saying? So like when I say it starts in generations, like I guess like you said, your son's learning shit literally how you learned shit because you're just now realizing that you're doing shit your parents are doing. Like if a lot more of us can realize that we are fucked up and get that self-help that we need, like me, like
That's all you know, because that is all you know. That's all you have ever known.
right. So like my daughter got diagnosed with autism at a very early age. So I'm looking at it in like a reverse scale. So I'm looking at my daughter like, okay, if she has autism and a lot of her issues are reflections of what I have, because they really are, and they're the same shit my dad has, I'm like, nigga, maybe we should go see a fucking doctor. You know what I'm saying? Like you were saying, like smoking weed ain't gonna fucking help the shit the issues I have. You know what I'm saying?
I talked to you guys so many times about literally realizing that you don't realize down to the cells that you have. The trauma that we've been through is in us. It's our cells. When you have a child, that is what this child is being made of. What you and your person are. Your
DNA.
child, everything, not only your personality and your looks. No. Your trauma is in this child. Your trauma is becoming this child. And I think
in the DNA. And I agree 100% with that, because guess what? Me, at 40 years old, I went and I had my tubes tied and pulled the fuck out, because guess what? The shit that I have going on in my head, most people would say, oh, it's PTSD. You needed to heal from that. You needed to learn from that. But I have been through a civil war. They took my father hostage for 17 days. The guerrilla army took my father hostage for 17 days while we were still in my country during that time. My father had to come pick me and my siblings up from school. And if you guys go back into history, you will see in late 80s, El Salvador had a civil war where Monsignor Romero got shot and the nuns were raped and the nuns were murdered. And this all happened at my school. So I thank God that I'm not messed up more than I should be. But when they shot the nuns, I had brain matter on my uniform at 7 years old. And how do you begin to move past that? I thank God that this never affected me in my everyday life. But now it's like, I think back and like, damn, I really should have talked to somebody.
There's a book that I'm reading. I started in the pandemic and it's 2 years later, but it's called It Didn't Start With You. And it's a book about inherited trauma. This psychiatrist is like recounting stories of clients, and all of a sudden they have these mental issues or having panic attacks, but they're digging deep and like, oh, whatever your mom, your grandma, whatever goes through and you're in utero, it literally does pass through. And that's one thing I'm grateful my mom, because in the brown, black and brown, it's not like talking about mental illness in that. That's one thing my mom is like super good for. So that was one thing. My sister and me, she's like, are you guys okay? Like, you know, she has anxiety and there's a plethora of mental illness in our family, but she has always been like, it's okay if you feel this way, like, let me know. And I'll be 29 this year, and it wasn't until like 2 years ago I had my I had like a massive panic attack. And I probably had them before, and I was still at home. So I was 27 years old. I literally went upstairs. It's 2:00 in the morning, and I'm like, my parents. I'm almost 6 foot. I got in the bed with my parents, and I said, I think I'm having a heart attack. But my mom was like, I told her what was happening, and she's been through it. She knows, and she sat there and she rubbed my back until I was comfortable enough to go downstairs. But that's not something I had really shared with my husband and boyfriend. So it wasn't until later I had to tell him, like, I have these moments where I don't know why I feel like this. I don't know why I'm scared. And I think I had like a small one when we finally moved in together. So it's funny, now he's on alert. He's like, are you okay? Like, are you feeling this way? Like, why'd you wake up in the middle of the night? And I appreciate that I was like, my mom was able to talk to me, so I was able to talk to him, because otherwise, no, like, we've been together, I would still be stuck because I don't know how to talk to him about my trauma or my anxiety. And it doesn't make for a good marriage if you can't do that. But I'm glad that my mom was able to, because my grandma and grandpa, I mean, back in the day, they didn't talk about that. My uncle was diagnosed with schizophrenia. I think I was in middle or elementary, and that's still early.
Are you able? Do you feel like you're
breaking a
But
little?
do you
up a little
feel
bit,
like, are
yeah.
you able to talk to him about that now?
Yeah. So when we didn't start living
Open to
together
talk to him about that now?
last year, so we didn't start living together till last year. So I was still at home when it happened, and I kind of like, oh, like I had a panic attack, but it was where that specific year, it was just like a lot. So I was anxious, like I wouldn't go to sleep because I was afraid that I was going to wake up in a panic attack, and I wasn't telling him all of that. Like, I wasn't sleeping in my room because that's where I had my attack and I wasn't comfortable. So like I told him, like, this is how bad it was. And I got put on medication for it after a year of trying to, like, oh, I can handle this. And so that's when I told him, I was like, I have to do this because I'm not going to be able to work. I'm not going to be able to go back to school. Like, I can't do it. And so then I was able to have those conversations. And I don't know like why I was afraid to talk to him, because we had been together at that point like 9 years.
It was because it was you hadn't accepted it yourself. So it was just that. And I'm sorry I interrupted Colorado, but yes, I love the conversation, y'all.
But yeah, but back to that, the book, it Didn't Start With You is a really good read. And I would
link it.
All Black and brown people to read it, because it definitely makes you feel like it's not your fault that you have these issues with self-healing or healing in general, because you only know what you know from your parents. And so you take on, I think like Colorado said, like, you have your parents, like, you act like them, you have their healing tendencies, but you'd have to come up with your own. But that book is kind of like a good perspective of how like you kind of work that shit out.
Right. You gotta take responsibility. And that's, again, I think did it earlier. We don't want to take responsibility a lot of the time. But yeah.
Definitely got to be accountable for the role we play.
So exactly. I think, because, we've been on for about 2 hours. I think to wrap it up, I think we're in a good place. Definitely feel very good that we had this space to just talk and to meet everyone. And I think a good place to end is to kind of recap, just getting through a breakup. So one thing that we did talk about is so much more so not really focusing on the acceptance part, getting over it, as much as getting through it. And getting through it sometimes means going back to childhood, having to face those things to really place where a lot of your feelings are coming from. The other thing that I think we talked really good about is how are we feeling physically, emotionally, down to like, maybe I need to be on some medication. Maybe the weed and liquor is not really helpful. And then the other thing is watching out for shit that is not helpful, understanding what kind of person you are in your community. Will a hot girl summer help you? Will taking a walk help you? Will smoking weed with your friends and fucking a bunch of bitches help you? Or kind of taking a step back and isolating yourself and figure out what the fuck is going on at first? Will that help you? And the other thing that we talked about too, resources. Alana brought up a really good book. We talked about reaching out in the community, talking to community members that may be family members, asking them, how was your marriage like? What was it? Where were your emotions like? Have you ever dealt with something like this? Talking to someone that is close to you that you do share DNA with to get a perspective on why do I feel the way we feel. And I think the last thing that we talked about that is probably, in my eyes, the most wonderful thing that you can do when you're going through a breakup, helping other people, whether that's helping your child navigate through something, being in a platform like this where we can create space to talk, creating something, whether that's getting really busy in work or whether that's grinding and hustling, whether that's that shows up as, you know, being a good friend to a girl, not telling her to go fuck a new nigga and telling her, hey girl, we can sit down and we can read this It Didn't Start With You book, you know? So I think we're in like a really, really, really good place right now. I honestly, while we were talking, I just want to let you guys know that I did not have the Skype account that lets you talk more than 40 minutes. As we were talking, I literally went and paid it just because I feel like this is something that I want to keep doing. And even though it is a long talk, I feel like this is a great fucking talk. And whether we get 2 views or 1,000 views, that this is something that I'm really glad that we were together in, and something that I'm glad that I was able to be a part of, because I definitely feel a lot closer to you. And I think that's a good thing. I feel like, we kind of have like a tribe here, just from this conversation right now. I want to thank you guys. And definitely I'm just taking 2 fucking hours out of your Sunday for doing this. And yeah, thanks guys.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, this shit was fun.
Yeah, appreciate you.
All right, I'm gonna stop the recording.